Hello, fabulous friends, fans, and superstars. Welcome to Synchronicity Web TV. I am your host, Nadiya Shah, and this is your moment of synchronicity. Well, I'm so excited to celebrate with you, someone I know you've seen on my channel many times, the brilliant astrologer Attila, who is behind Zan's Astrology. So I know you've met him a lot. We are going to have a lot of fun talking, but I should let you know that Zan is coming to Synchronicity University. After so many guest videos on my channel, now he's coming to Synchronicity University as part of the March 2025 speaker series. As this is publishing, you've got a little time left to choose your tuition rate, as low as just $5 a class, to learn from Attila and these wonderful, brilliant astrologers joining the speaker series. And here we go. Attila, welcome. Thank you for being here.
Hello there, Nadiya. I can't believe that this is really happening. This is like a dream come true. Thank you so much for the invitation. I am really over the moon. I am so happy and honored and thrilled. This is magic. This is like pure magic for me.
You are so lovely.
As an introduction, can I please say something about what I consider as a mystic about Synchronicity University? So, as I said before, I see this as a true manifestation of synchronicity, where you can imagine that, for example, mystics of my generation, we still had the internet, so we had the connection here. And we didn't have this tool of unity to truly connect us, regardless of our culture, regardless of our native language, regardless of the astrology of the land that we live in. And one based, and this is where what I truly love about Synchronicity University, the humanity of it and the humanitarianism, because this is truly full of compassion, full of love, full of mercy. And what everyone can learn here, the biggest thing, and the alchemist journey, the true alchemical gold, is the astrology of the heart, the compassion, the love, and the love for the human being, and for the healing, and for the wisdom. Because wisdom without love is truly just emptiness, empty words.
Wow, that's so beautifully put. Wisdom and love do go together. And yeah, my intention always, there's different
I learned
ways
this from you.
Oh, thank you. Well, I think that there are different ways to celebrate astrology, to celebrate love, to celebrate wisdom. And I think that with Synchronicity University, it's in layers, right? So there's the layer of what the students get. And so they get to, hear a message that I hope feels empowering and loving to them, but also helps them to feel more connected to something larger than themselves. And I think of the connection we have with the planets as something larger, these physical manifestation of ancient gods that we feel within us. I think that's very powerful. But then also, I love that Synchronicity University gives opportunities to teachers like yourself. It helps people to get their first opportunities to share. There is a huge astrology conference that happens once every few years. It's considered the Olympics of astrology, and it's called UAC. And I am super excited. I've been going to UAC ever since I heard about it years ago. It's a wonderful thing. And I always tell, sorry, go.
You deserve to be there, of course.
Oh, thank you. It's a wonderful experience, but also, a lot of students, and not just students, I should say presenters who might be starting out, who maybe did a talk with us, they'll reach out and say, hey, can I use the talk I did with you to apply to be one of the speakers at UAC or at another conference? And I'm like, of course, that's the point. The point is that this is like a start, but my hope is that it helps to continue something powerful within you, whether that takes you further into astrology or in other directions. So it's like a way of giving back to the astrology community, but also it's that magnification of love and wisdom that I'm so proud of. Yeah.
The Jupiter factor.
Yes.
Every university has to have a Jupiter.
Yeah. You know what? Jupiter is in my 10th house. So that's one thing. Yes, and it's trying my Sag moon, and it's, it's doing all kinds of things there. But also,
Now I understand a lot.
but yeah, it's Jupiter in Aries too, right? Trine my moon, and then it's also in a trine with Neptune and Sag. So we've got that. But when Synchronicity University was launched in 2015, Jupiter was trine Uranus. Jupiter was trine Uranus. And
The
I
planet of
remember, like, I
astrology.
really think Jupiter Uranus aspects are some of the more fortunate aspects, at least for me. I think it's because I'm an Aquarius sun and a Sag moon. Maybe that's why. But I do think that there's something about the combination of Jupiter and Uranus that just helps us to leap forward, whether it's ideas, whether it's motivation, whether it's insights, whether it's a more hopeful version of ourselves. It's like we are propelled towards a future that's so much more and ultimately better. And so, yeah, I love that you pick up all that Jupiter energy.
But do you know what I really love about the most? Jupiter is Jupiter, but you also do not hide Saturn. You also say very clearly that sacrifice, blood, sweat, especially tears,
Yeah.
sleepless nights, contemplations after contemplations are part of this journey.
Really, yeah, really. That's so true. And, I sometimes on Instagram, I'll do a ask me anything in my Instagram stories, right? And it's wonderful. I get all kinds of questions. Sometimes people just ask about me. Sometimes they say something lovely. And then sometimes they ask me like about their life or about my life. And so somebody recently asked me, how was this full moon for you? And I was honest and I said, it was brutal. It was really hard. It was so tough for me. Yeah, it was. I mean, it's a full moon in my opposite sign. It was an almost exact square to Uranus. And it was like all this old relationship stuff. But it wasn't just about with my ex, and it wasn't just about relationship patterns, which I really had to confront and look at. But it was also about my relationship with the divine. It was like, how much am I really going to trust my higher power, whether that's the universe or love or God or whatever you call it? How much am I really going to trust that? And that was a big turning point to realize that, you know what? It's not really about the ex. It's not really about relationships in terms of just dudes, but it's about my relationship with higher power. That's what's going to change my understanding of what partnership is. And yeah, it was brutal and I was honest about it. And people were kind of surprised that I was honest about it. But I think if you watch me regularly, I'm going to be honest that, lots of stuff happens and it's hard, but it's got to be for the best. It's got to be for the best, right? It's got to be
Can I
for
say
love.
something that I learned from you?
Yes.
You always say that we must never forget that Venus is born from Uranus, if you know what I mean.
Oh my
So
God.
she is chaos in herself, and we must not take offense to that because love comes and goes when she wants. She's capricious by nature. How's that song? Love is the acceptance is the way we pay for her by accepting this part, her capricious nature.
Wow.
Seventh house.
That is a very brilliant reminder that, yeah, by her very nature, she's erratic and uncontrollable because her dad is Uranus. You look at where these ancient divinities come from, you look at their parents, and it tells you everything about what makes them who they are. And so her dad was Uranus, but the sea was like the mom. She was born in the sea. She came out of the foam of the sea. And isn't that fascinating to consider, right? Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, the emotion.
And this is what I love about your work, because you take us into this world. You are a time traveler because you take us back to those times with your words and with your energy. Like I can do my thing, but I can never be Nadiya. I cannot be the
You don't have to be.
ambassador.
You only have to be you. You only have to be Attila. And that's more than enough. I literally, I don't normally pick up my phone in the middle of whatever we're doing, but I literally shared this meme in my Instagram stories. I think how sometimes it's a meme, but they make it into a video for some reason. Then your phone doesn't save the video. It only saves the graphic. But it was basically saying, I am me, and that is my superpower. That's what the meme was saying. And that's exactly it. Like every summer I teach a business class at Synchronicity University. And, it's not at Synchronicity University. Forgive me. It's at Kepler College. That's the business class.
Wow.
I teach at my own school, of course, all the time, but astrology. The business class is with Kepler College. And that's the thing I always try to impress on the students, that you are you. And that is your superpower. No one else can have that relationship with the sky that you do, because it is so personal. And no one else can express it and say it the way that you do, because you are giving voice to symbols. Only you can do that. And so trusting that can put you on the path towards so many great things. So how wonderful that I see you doing that, Attila. I am so very proud of you. So once again, everybody, Attila is coming to Synchronicity University as part of the March 2025 speaker series. As this is publishing, you've got just a few days left to choose your tuition rate. As always, just $5 a class to learn from Attila and these other amazing speakers. Now, Attila, I want to ask you, because you're going to be teaching about dwarf planets. Pluto is a dwarf planet. Yes. Tell me about dwarf planets. Describe that to me.
But before all else, we must discriminate one dwarf planet, which is Ceres. Ceres is one of the largest ones, but she is not included in the TNO, trans-Neptunian objects category, because she's way too close. I do believe her orbit is between Jupiter and Mars somewhere. Or am I correct or not?
Well, the thing is Ceres an asteroid? What's the difference between an asteroid and a dwarf planet, or are they the same thing?
An asteroid is just a piece of rock, basically, and its shape can vary very much. Ceres has a spherical shape, and her orbit is, even though it is not like a normal planet's orbit, as stable, very elliptical but it's stable enough for her to be a dwarf planet. And she's one of the largest.
Wow.
But a dwarf planet which is almost the same size as her, and she's truly a dwarf planet, is at the very, very furthest reaches of the solar system, something that is called the Oort cloud, and it is Sedna, almost the same size as Ceres. And even in astrology, in modern astrology, she is considered the highest octave of Ceres, Sedna. And what makes her very unique is that their orbits of her and most of the trans-Neptunian objects is very, very long. Sedna is 11,000 years roughly. So you can imagine how much time she spends in a sign. Sedna specifically entered the sign of Taurus. Just to say, let me look at my notes.
Yeah, please do.
August 1965. And she just entered Gemini, so she left Taurus in April 2024. So that's quite a lot. And she transformed the sign of Taurus exactly how Pluto would. So what I want to teach in my class is that Pluto is not really alone in his works, because he has a whole range of family, cousins, brothers, sisters, infernal deities. And this is where the astrology gets truly multicultural, because the trans-Neptunian objects are from various cultures. Like, I don't even know, let me give you an example. Huia is from the Latin culture. Ixion is from of course, the Greek culture. And some of these names are so hard to pronounce, so please excuse me. I think it's pronounced Gongkun, like the Chinese water, the Chinese flood god. Borasisi, I think Borasisi comes from somewhere from Africa. Meki Meki from the Easter Islands. So we have a wide range of everything, all pantheon we could even dream of. And their symbolism really needs a certain kind of maturity to be understood. That's why this is the quantum age. Humanity's just basic emotional openness, and sophistication was not enough. You yourself said that what is a god? If an emotion becomes divine enough, the elevated emotion, these divine objects, let's say, need an extra layer. They need the quantum. They need us to bypass Saturn by miles. We need to and Uranus offered us this opening, and somewhere in the 1700s, right, when it was introduced into astronomy and astrology. But I do believe Pluto also did that in the 1930s, 40s, because it opened a dimension of what is beyond it. And this is so fascinating that no one is an expert in this. There are certain big names in astrology that study this specifically. May I mention them?
Of course.
For example, Alan Clay, Heather Answorth, Kelly Hunter, Pam Gregory. These are all passionate astrologers exactly for this trans-Neptunian object. But everyone's a student. We're just discovering them with different methodologies. I use channeling, so I connect myself to the symbolism and the myth of the deity, or some are even not deities. One is called simply chaos. Some are institution. There is
chaos is divine.
An object which is called something like an institution or institute or something like that. So some are so beyond understanding at the present moment that humanity and us astrologers need time to let this sink in. So this is just in baby stages, my research and everyone's research, because we don't really know all that much about, just that they're Pluto's cousins. For example, Orcus is called the anti-Pluto. Like Pluto transforms. It changes forever. Orcus repairs. And if it cannot repair perfectly, it destroys. So that's why it's called anti-Pluto. But ironically, it's like a system, just like Pluto Charon. Orcus has a moon once, and it has the same dance as Pluto Charon. So amazing.
It is, my goodness. And all the love and passion that you bring to your understanding of dwarf planets. I love it. It's so fascinating to consider.
Well, this has to be included in astrology at one point in the future, hopefully the close future.
Yeah, and now, you're already including it, which is really powerful. So let me ask you, because you said Sedna changes signs basically like every 60 years or so, right? And right now, Sedna has just recently moved into Gemini. I can already see what that could mean, but how about you tell us for the collective what that might mean for the collective?
Before we can understand what she wants to do in Gemini, we need to understand what she has done in Taurus. So certain, energies or certain patterns in society truly arose. For example, Sedna's legend goes that her fingers were chopped off. Many variations of the legend, but all of them keep that she had her fingers chopped off and her fingers turned into sea animals, whales, seals, dolphins, and other marine creatures. So this is not just a transformation like Pluto. This is something where it's survival. This is where something that should have been certain death gave life to something that was beyond fathoming, even maybe for Mother Nature herself. And this is how Sedna became a goddess. The ocean accepted her. The ocean elevated her because of her wound. Like, for example, I have to say astrology is an example, right? And I have to say a rather not so pleasant example, but this is when, for example, many women found their voices in after, as I said, entered Taurus in 65. So after 65, that I was raped, I survived it, and I didn't let this bring me down. I turned this into a power of mine. Taurus, the woman, Sedna, the sacrifice, and the power of femininity. So Sedna was one of those powers which really drove women to rise up and show themselves and their values, and that I don't need to be equal to a man. I am magical as my birthright. Just as you said, let me be who I am. Sedna taught us through Taurus that, and she taught men to accept this, to bow before this, to see the sacred in the sacrifice, not just in the vulnerability and the fragility. And this is when, for example, people with disabilities got into Olympics and their life really changed for real. Embodiment, Taurus. We embody what we believe. Sedna made sure that, yeah, we need to embody, not just preach about it. We need to do it. So this is what she's done in Taurus. And everything manufacturing, with the hands, the fingers, became all that much valuable because people saw the hours, the sacrifice, and work. Child labor was banned because Sedna as a mother, do not use children, the innocence of children, no. So, and in Gemini, well, she will continue what she has done in the sign of Taurus, but in Gemini is the sign of the primary teacher. So to voice this, to put it on the internet, and Sedna immediately trines Pluto. And this brings out a certain nature of Gemini, technology and the internet. When the internet was just in its baby stages, Gemini was all that much passionate about it. When the internet is the strong norm and the tumultuous, Gemini wants to return to the basics. Gemini wants to be the preacher, the mouth to mouth, the brother, sister. So Sedna and Pluto are highlighting this, that let's return to the basics, parallel to technology. Let's evolve, but let's involve as well to keep the balance of Aquarius, right? The two glyphs. And Sedna is the ruler of the deep ocean. So you can imagine that all of us are invited to the depths of our minds, where technology gives us anxiety and the illness of this modern age. Sedna wants us to study this and be there for one another. Either we are true brothers and sisters to one another, or let's not lie about it. Sedna is so brutal.
Brutal, but fierce. Like unapologetic in what she has to do, and her, ultimately her love, right? Her love of the vulnerable, her love of, wanting the power of those who've been disenfranchised to be seen, to be acknowledged. It'll be so interesting to see, because right now it feels a little bit like some of the most disenfranchised people on the planet. It's almost like there's this move to erase them, right? To not acknowledge them. And I feel like it is so heartbreaking, but it's almost like that's what's going to help people to say, no, I am here, I exist, I matter. And, I believe that you don't really know who you are if you never see yourself, right? It's like
But
you need to see yourself.
Nadiya? Sorry for,
go.
interrupting you. You are actually Sedna and Gemini, Synchronicity University. It's the anti-gatekeeper. You are like a matriarch not in an age sense. I'm not saying that you're old or anything, but
I love you.
The matriarch.
Not in a literal sense. I'm not having babies in this lifetime. Yeah.
Inviting the young astrologer souls to dare to have a voice.
Mm-hmm. I love that. That's so true.
I have to bow before that.
And my God, you are so loving. I appreciate you so much. But wow, isn't that interesting? Yeah, because I know like the way I'm just so passionate about like these huge astrologers who, you know, normally if you want to learn from them in their schools or at other schools, you're going to pay, you know, what for some people isn't a big deal. They can pay it. But for some people it is, you know, to pay $300 to learn from one of these teachers or more to take a 5-week course with them. But at Synchronicity University, you get to be in the same space, seeing them live. Astrologers that, you know, for some people, they didn't even think they would ever get that chance to have that interaction with. And here you are, you get to actually be in the room and to make that accessible to the masses. I mean, I love that idea. And it's very Aquarian of me also, right? And it's interesting that you connect that to Sedna and Gemini because Gemini is education, it's skill building, right? It's not like the Sagittarius kind of, it's not an official accredited university. It is what you do and what you take because you want to, because it's interesting to you, because you want to learn something, you want to engage others or just get the downloads and learn in your own time. And it's incredible to see that as a force of protection and healing. I hadn't considered it that way before.
And our wounds, your wounds, my wounds, the wounds of all of your speakers, they are the teachers. Sedna, the wound, you know? And Chiron. Oh, and I must say someone. She's not a dwarf planet, a centaur. Chiron's wife, Cheroklo. She's also, you are so Cheroklo because Cheroklo was a nymph. All she had to do to heal is to show up. And that's it. Her sacred presence, her compassionate heart was radiating there. That healed. That's you. That's so you.
Wow, you've got so much knowledge and passion. Oh my God. Attila, I know that you're just going to be doing this one class, but if people are so inspired and they can let us know in the comments, they can let us know at the class. But I think you have enough knowledge to do like your own 5-week course. And you just bring so much passion and excitement for it. I mean, I just think you would be so brilliant doing that.
I am so honored, Nadiya, but I'm a bit too young for that.
Oh, please don't say that. No, no, no. We all have something to share. We all have something to teach. So, well, we can talk about that another time, but people can let us know if they want even more dwarf planets from you. Now, I do want to ask you about Pluto as a dwarf planet. That's the most widely used dwarf planet in astrology. What can you say about helping us to understand Pluto differently with this nuance that you bring?
Well, first of all, we have to look back at when Pluto was integrated in astrology and how immediately it changed our world forever. Or maybe it's vice versa. Maybe our world changing forever showed us Pluto. It doesn't matter. The direction of this really doesn't matter. Because I have this feeling that the same thing is happening right now, but in a different way. Because it wasn't just Pluto in the 30s, 40s. It was also Uranus in the sign of Taurus that we have right now. And Pluto really showed us, besides the destruction, because that was very obvious, of what the mind can really do. Because Scorpio, okay, it's water energy, but the emotion that makes the mind do all the things it can do, including the bad, the perv, right, Scorpio, but including breaking the boundaries of everything. And plutonium coincided with Pluto actually being studied and integrated in astrology. And plutonium was one of the first totally artificial man-made elements. So we created an element. And plutonium and everything, nuclear reactors and the electricity it gives us, it helps astrology indirectly by giving us the internet, right? But besides this, psychology, the human psyche revealed itself like never before. And if you really think about it, right now, Uranus is still in Taurus. and it's wrapping up big time. It's giving us the harshest and hardest lessons about both technology, food, genetics, everything in Taurus. And you know that because you had so many really, really interesting videos, and I recommend to everyone to check them out. Nadiya Shah's Uranus specials. But besides this, we also have Pluto in another fixed sign. It's so powerful because it's showing us both the good and the bad of Aquarius. And then we have this Sedna activating everything. What are we learning right now? What are these dwarf planets what are they telling humanity? Because these dwarf planets have a lot to do with humanity's quantum leap in consciousness, where we become a bit more divine than before. But unfortunately, Aquarius, the two, also with more evil than ever before. And this is when we need to really make the choice of what's good for us and what is not good for us. And before we actually make this choice, I don't believe that these dwarf planets can actually show us their true symbolism. And neither Pluto can actually reveal to it, because these dwarf planets without Pluto, they don't mean much, do they? They need Pluto to be relevant in a certain way. And Pluto is in the sign of astrology, Aquarius. So this is an amazing period when all of us are going to know Pluto the way we never ever imagined, right? Even the big professors, even the big names in astrology are seeing things and learning things that, wow.
So true, because even though, yes, we can understand the archetype, it really is the first time that we, meaning humanity, consciously knowing that Pluto exists, will experience Pluto in Aquarius consciously. And so, because Pluto was discovered in Gemini, I believe, right? It was in that space between Gemini and Cancer. Or was it Cancer? Trying to think back my math.
By astronomers, I'm not sure, but
okay. No, it was. Yeah, it was in Gemini when it was discovered, but it was just about to move into Cancer, and as it moved into Cancer, there was a little bit of a not well known sort of a rivalry, if you will, about who's going to discover Pluto and how it's going to happen, and different people from different countries sort of competing with each other. So there's some debate about when it was discovered, like it can be off by a couple of years, but we can say like late Gemini. And especially, I mean, once there was consensus, Pluto was in Cancer. So what that means is consciously, we've never experienced Pluto in Aquarius, but again, we understand it archetypally. And so it'll be really fascinating to see. And so I've really been like paying attention. Of course, that's what we do as astrologers, because as much as Aquarius is about equality and oneness, it's also about hyper segmentation. It's also hyper niche. And so I started off this video early in this video talking about how it feels like certain groups who are very marginalized already are being erased in a way, like their representation is being erased. And that's the flip side of saying, the world is so vast, there's all types of people. Well, look, we're all the same. So then those things don't matter, right? That's one school of thought. And then another school of thought is no, like we should recognize and see everybody as they are. And especially if you respect people, you acknowledge them as they are telling you, this is who I am. This is what I'm asking to be acknowledged. And it's amazing to me that there's so much resistance to that. And that's part of Pluto as well. Pluto shows us the resistance. It shows us how we can make evil those things that might actually not be. And so I'll give an example. In my personal opinion, I'm just going to say this. Pluto in Scorpio. So Pluto in Scorpio, what happened with that? Well, we saw the AIDS epidemic, right? Anytime with Pluto, we tend to see these shifts happen. But I remember, and the phrase I think of with Pluto and Scorpio more than anything is silence equals death, right? Silence equals death. And that was a rallying cry of activists who were, wanting visibility, who were like LGBT activists, who were wanting attention and equality paid towards what was happening with the AIDS epidemic, because there was this prevailing sort of like on top feeling, oh, it's just that community, so it doesn't really matter. And that community had been shamed into being invisible. They were like, no, we're not doing that anymore, because if we stay invisible, we're going to keep dying and nobody's going to care. And that to me is so Pluto and Scorpio, to say, no, I have my instinct. I love who I love. I have a right to be whoever I am when the door is closed in my own space or whatever. And yeah, like, that doesn't mean I should die. That is so Pluto and Scorpio, all of that. So it'll be interesting to see how we decide as we go on this journey with Pluto and Aquarius. We're at the very beginning of it. And so it's starting off with this erasure of certain communities, some of the most marginalized people on the planet, these tiny little communities around the world. They're being like erased, like they don't actually exist. They don't actually matter. And it'll be interesting to see how then that is responded to, how people step up, how people show up for that. That'll be really fascinating to see. Gosh, Attila, you make me think so much. I love talking to you. Once again, everybody, Attila is coming to Synchronicity University as part of the March 2025 speaker series. Boy, 90-minute talk, I promise. Just from this talk I've had with you, I've learned so much. I know people signing up for your class, they're going to learn a whole lot about these different dwarf planets. I'm really looking forward to it. Attila, thank you for being here. I adore you. You bring so much love. I always say love gets you everything, and I really believe that. And one thing I do want to say is, before we started recording, I was saying to you that, I had this moment with the full moon that took place, and it was about, like, yes, my partnerships and all of that, my relationship with the divine, that partnership I'm going to have. And a part of that is that, no, when fear comes, because Pluto is now in my sun sign, Pluto is moving up to my sun, inching up to my sun. And it's like, you know what? No, anytime I felt that fear, there've been some moments, and especially before Pluto changed signs, I felt fear. But then what happened was, this last summer, I ended up on bed rest. So I had this injury and it wouldn't close, and there were complications and things. So I ended up just needing to stay in bed for almost 2 months, basically, is what it turned out to be. It was awful. It was just awful. One of the hardest things I've ever been through. And that really was now I kind of realized, and I still glean wisdom from it. That was the universe saying, no, whatever happens, it's going to be okay. Like, what is my relationship with the divine actually going to be? Am I going to curse the divine? Am I going to rail against what isn't fair? Or am I going to say, whatever it is, let it come? And so much fear kicked up for me. One of the fears that kicked up for me was my work, my career, what I've built. What if, everybody goes away? What if, and at the time I was losing all these subscribers. Now, after the fact, I've gained even more, and I knew that would likely happen, but I had lost so many subscribers, and I was like, oh my God, what if everything I've worked for just goes away? What if it crashes and burns? And then I heard something in me say, then let it. You know what? Whatever needs to happen is going to happen. And I think my work has gotten better since I had that realization, because I'm able to bring that much more fearlessness to what I'm doing. And I think that's why I've been attracting like this huge amount of new subscribers lately. It's been very surprising to me, but I think that's part of it, is that I am learning to be more unabashed and more fearless. And that might be part of what these dwarf planets and their very intense energies, even when they're hard, because some of the energies you described, they're really hard, but gosh,
Nadiya, what you just said about yourself, about your story, this last part, when you listen back to this, you'll see that you're Chiron. The wound that didn't close and how it ennobled you and now you're the Chiron that's on the stars. So it's attracting subscribers. Your Chiron.
Oh my God. I was having my Chiron return. I kid you not. Chiron was stationed on my natal Chiron, 23 Aries.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
So hard.
Oh, it was brutal. It was brutal. But wow, you are so right.
But you lived it. Chiron is not just on the stars. We are all Chiron. You were one.
Wow. And it was my hips too, which was amazing. It was crazy.
Hips don't lie.
Oh my God. Okay, total side note. I'm going to be in Mexico City in March, and Shakira is doing like 10 concerts in Mexico City.
Wow.
So I've been trying to listen to her more and watch her more to get into her music, because I've been trying to find somebody to replace Daddy Yankee, even though nobody can replace Daddy Yankee, but I'm a huge Daddy Yankee fan. But he retired. He's doing something totally different now. And so I've been like,
anyway.
Huh?
He's immortal in your heart.
Yeah, yeah. In terms of how he changed my life, yeah. But yeah, so it's interesting you mentioned hips don't lie, because I've been trying to get into her music lately. I love that. Attila, I love you. I adore you. I could talk to you forever. You are so brilliant. Really looking forward to your class, Attila. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Nadiya, for inviting. This is truly a dream come true. And thank you, the star prayer to the stars. This is, for me, it worked.
I adore you. Thank you again, Attila. And thank you, everybody out there for watching. Until we connect again, take care. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye, Nadiya.